Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Srimad Bhakti Gauravani Goswami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Goswami Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Prashatya Desha Harine. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Bhagavad Gita. Well, the silence here? Could be. Yes. Text 2, chapter 2, contents of the Gita summarized. Wow. Text number 60. Translation. Purport by His Divine Grace, says Bhakti Gauravani Goswami Prabhupada. 260. 60.
Четем от Шримад Бхагавад Гита, втора глава, обобщено съдържание на Бхагавад Гита, текст 60. Ятато хяптикаунцея пурушасya випашчета индрияни праматхини харанти прасадхаммана.
Thank you.
Мотивата са толкова силни.
No. You want to give the class? It's good. No.
I thought you wanted to read.
No, I wanted to read, yes.
Okay.
No? Excuse.
Yeah.
So we cannot repeat. We don't have enough phones with the text. By hearing, you may be able. Yes, it's not difficult. It's Bhagavad Gita. Yatato yapi kaunteya. Just see that all no Sanskrit. Purushasya vipashchitaha. Indriyani pramatini. Haranti prasabam manaha. Fantastic. Yatato yapi kaunteya. Purushasya vipashchitaha. Indriyani pramatini. Haranti prasadham manaha. Yatato yapi kaunteya. Purushasya vipashchitaha. Indriyani pramatini. Haranti prasavam manaha.
Yatato yapi kaunteya. Purushasya vipashchitaha. Indriyani pramatini. Haranti prasabam manaha. Yatato yapi kaunteya. Purushasya vipashchitaha. Indriyani pramatini. Haranti prasabam manaha. Yatato yapi kaunteya. Purushasya vipashchitaha. Indriyani pramatini. Haranti prasabam manaha.
Any of the ladies? Come on, one at least. You try your best. Yatato yati kaunteya Purushasya vipashtitaha Indriyani pramatini Haranti prasavam manaha Yatata while endeavoring.
Докато се стреми.
I said he should have the microphone. Why do I have the microphone? He certainly api in spite of
въпреки че
Kaunteya O son of Kunti
о сина на Кунти
Purushasya of a man
на човек
Vipashchitaha full of discriminating knowledge
изпълнен с разграничаващо знание.
Indriyani the senses
Сетивата
Pramatini agitating
то възбужда.
Haranti throw
Валя
Prasavam by force
на сила.
Manaha the mind.
Умът.
Translation: the senses are so strong and impetuous, O Arjuna, that they forcibly carry away the mind even of a man of discrimination who is endeavoring to control them.
Сетивата са толкова силни и необуздани, о Арджуна, че насила отклоняват ума дори на здравомислещ човек, стремящ се да ги контролира.
Purport: there are many learned sages, philosophers, and transcendentalists who try to conquer the senses, but in spite of their endeavors, even the greatest of them sometimes fall victim to material sense enjoyment due to the agitated mind.
Много мъдреци, философи и трансценденталисти се опитват да обуздаят сетивата, но въпреки усилията им, и най-великите от тях губи контрол над ума, стават жертва на материалните си удоволствия.
Even Vishwamitra, a great sage and perfect yogi, was misled by Menaka into sex enjoyment, although the yogi was endeavoring for sense control with severe types of penance and yoga practice.
Дори Вишвамитра, велик мъдрец и съвършен йоги, е бил съблазнен от Менака, макар че се опитвал да контролира сетивата си със суров аскетизъм и йога практика.
And of course there are so many similar instances in the history of the world.
Историята познава немалко подобни примери.
Therefore, it is very difficult to control the mind and senses without being fully Krishna conscious.
Много е трудно да се овладеят умът и сетивата без Кришна съзнание.
Without engaging the mind in Krishna, one cannot seize such material engagements.
Ако умът не е съсредоточен в Кришна, човек не може да преодолее материалното привличане.
A practical example is given by Sri Yamunacharya, a great saint and devotee, who says,
Шри Ямуначаря, велик светец и предан, в потвърждение на това дава следния пример.
Yaravadi mama chita Krishna padaravinde navanavarasadhaman udyatam rantum asit tadavadi batanari sangame smaryamane bhavati mukha vikara sushtu nishtivananscha. Since my mind has been engaged in the service of the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, and I have been enjoying an ever new transcendental humor, whenever I think of sex life with a woman, my face at once turns from it, and I spit at the thought.
Откакто умът ми като тайн служи на лотосовите везения в Кришна, аз не съждавам на вечно свежо трансцендентално чувство и само при мисълта за близост жена, лицето ми веднага се отвръща и аз заплювам тази мисъл.
Krishna consciousness is such a transcendentally nice thing that automatically material enjoyment becomes distasteful.
Кришна съзнание е толкова трансцендентално прекрасно, че материалното наслаждение естествено става отблъскващо.
It is as if a hungry man had satisfied his hunger by sufficient quantity of nutritious eatables.
Това е все едно да утолиш глада си с достатъчно количество вкусна храна.
Maharaj Ambarish also conquered a great yogi, Durvasa Muni, simply because his mind was engaged in Krishna consciousness. Savai mana Krishna padaravinda yorva chansi vaikunta gunanu varnane.
И Махарадж Амбариш победил великия йоги Дурваса Муни, просто защото умът му бил погълнат от Кришна съзнание.
Yatato yapi kaunteya purushasya vipashitaha indriyani pramatini haranti prasavam manaha. The senses are so strong and impetuous, O Arjuna, that they forcibly carry away the mind even of a man of discrimination who is endeavoring to control them.
Ситуация са толкова силни и необуздани, О Арджуна, че насилно отклоняват ума дори на здравомислещ човек, стремящ се да ги контролира.
Om Jnana-timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunminitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Mano Bhishram Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinavanu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishavanu Sutadevi Pranamami Hari Priye Panchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyaivacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadada Shiva Sadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. What a difficult subject matter. We don't like to hear this. This hurts a lot. Yes. Let's be honest. So this is the the mechanics of how the mind, the senses, and the whole subtle body, how they work. Yeah, it says here vipaschitaha, which means somebody who has very good knowledge. Yeah, discriminating knowledge. Because you may have knowledge, but you may not be able to discriminate properly. Now there's a similar verse, also talks about a man of knowledge. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, I have to think. I think it's 1917, possibly. Let's hope for the best. 1917. No. Failed. Maybe 1719. Yeah, this happens, 1917, let's say 1719. Failed again. Now we're going to find this. This is the good thing about Veda base. Let's see this one here. Bhagavatam. Oh. 1917. That was 1917, but it wasn't 6, it was the 9th canto. Okay. You don't have that. This is a famous verse. Matra svasra duhitrava na vivikta sano bhavet balavan indriya gramo vidvangsam api karshati. One should not allow oneself to sit on the same seat, even with one's mother, sister or daughter, for the senses are so strong that even though one is very advanced in knowledge, he may be attracted by sex.
В двете песни на Шримад Бхагаватам там се казва, че сетивата са толкова силни и необуздани, че дори този, който човек на знанието не трябва да сяда близо до своята майка или сестра или дъщеря, защото може да пожелае да има сексуално отношение с теб.
So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada says, it may be said that one is liable to be attracted if he's not very advanced in civilized life.
В коментара Шрила Прабхупад казва, че може някой да твърди, това се отнася само за тези, които не са напреднали.
However, as specifically mentioned here, vidvangsam apikarshati, even if one is highly advanced, materially or spiritually, he may be attracted by lusty desires.
Но както тук се казва, видвамси, дори някой да е много напреднал в материално и духовно отношение, той пак може да изпита поход.
The object of attraction may even be one's mother, sister or daughter.
Обектът на похота му може да са дори и майката, сестрата или дъщеря.
Tough life. It's a really difficult. I mean, this is the talks about King Yayati, and this is like who knows how long ago.
Тук се говори тази история за царя Яяти и кой знае какво се случило това.
And Vishwamitra, that's the time of King Ramachandra.
Времето на Вишвамитра е когато Рамачандра е бил.
That's what Treta Yuga.
Това е Трета Юга.
So that's like how many millions of years ago? It's a long time ago. So the point is that this, what is described here, is a universal truth, anytime, anywhere, for anyone.
Така че това, което е описано тук е една универсална истина за всяко време и за всеки човек, навсякъде.
So nobody is safe.
Така че никой не е обезопасен.
We're all in the same bag.
Всички сме в един куш.
So therefore, first of all, we may wonder what's the problem? Why is this? What's wrong with it?
Първо, може да се питаме какъв е точно проблем, защо е така написано.
I mean, today somebody may say, "Oh, I really like to have my mind being carried away. It's wonderful."
Днес хората могат да се кажат какъв е проблем умът ми да бъде отнесен.
People are trying to find something that will carry their mind away, isn't it?
Хората се опитват да намерят нещо, което ще отнесе умът.
Many are looking in the internet for new pages with new pictures and new films that they haven't seen before that finally will agitate them because they're already dull.
Много хора гледат за нови снимки, нови филми, нови неща в интернет, които да разбурят повече, защото вече всичко е образно.
We want to be, the word tantalized, agitated. We want to be agitated. We try to be agitated. And sometimes you can't be agitated because you're already without any strength and, like, how you say, dried out.
И всички хората желаят това да бъдат по някакъв начин стимулирани, възбуждани, въпреки че може да бъдат пресъхнали.
So, therefore, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that, for the spiritualist, what is day is night for the materialist and vice versa. So here he talks about many learned sages, philosophers tried to conquer the senses, and the materialist just the opposite.
И затова в Бхагавад Гита се казва за просветление мъдрец, това, което е нощ ден, за материалиста и обратното. И затова тук се казва, че издигналите светци се опитват да контролират стилата.
I mean, if anybody, a materialistic person, reads this verse by Yamunacharya,
Ако един материалист прочете стиха от Ямуначаря,
he will say, "You poor guy,
се каже горкият човек.
He lost his attraction, It's a disaster."
Той си изгубил привличането, това е катастрофа.
Yes, a catastrophe. This is the last thing we want.
Последното нещо, което искаме да
We want to be more and more attracted. That's the goal of life.
искаме да имаме още повече привличение. Това е целта на живота.
So, and then, yes, we may ask, so what's wrong with it anyway? Why is this mentioned? We don't want to hear about this.
Това може да се питаме, защо се говори така? Не искаме да слушаме.
There's nothing more wonderful in the world.
Нищо по-прекрасно няма в света.
It's the best of enjoyment we can get.
Това е най-доброто наслаждение, което сме да получим.
Why do you want to, overcome this, conquer it? Why?
Защо трябва да го преодолеем? Защо?
So, if somebody asks you, what will you say?
Ако някой ви пита какво ще отговоря?
Without sounding like a fanatic.
Без да звучим като фанатици.
I mean, people think that we are against women. Are we against women?
Някои хора може да си кажат, това тук се порицава жените, но така ли?
Here, yes, Yamunacharya speaks about Nari.
Да, стихът цитирания Ямуначаря говори за жени.
Nari Sangamame. Whenever I think like that, then, So, but nowadays you could put anything there. Women, men, transgender, animals, whatever it may be. Whatever is just moving and has some hole in it, that's good for me.
Нари, тук става дума за жена, но това, което казва цар Ямуначаря, в днешно време може да го замесим с всяко.
This is very conservative.
Тук е много консервативен.
I mean, this is old-fashioned.
Това е да, старомодно.
Right? I mean, Anyway, so what will be the answer? Somebody, what's wrong with all this? We would like to have any type of sex at any time. It's great. Yeah, the more the better. Any volunteer to preach to me? Or at least clear this doubt? Isn't it? I mean, the world as it is now, this is the propaganda. If you think like this, actually you're a little bit crazy. You may have some psychological problem. We have to treat you. So, and when you feel agitated again, then we can, you're healthy.
Когато отново се възвърнете това състояние на възбуда, тогава ще ви кажем, че сте вече здрави.
So I'm surprised to see 1, 2, 3 at least dressed as brahmacharis. Or 4.
Изненадвам, че има 3-4, които са
It's like completely crazy life.
Това е пълно налудничен живот.
And actually almost impossible.
Действително почти невъзможно.
Where is it? Prabhupada speaks about that. I don't remember where he says that, in connection to Ajamil.
Във връзка с историята за Аджамил, Шрила Прабхупада обяснява.
I do it from memory, because Ajamil, as you know, he just walked in the forest and saw a young couple of Shudras.
Както знаем, Аджамил бил в гората и видял случайно една двойка млади шудри.
Apparently they had drunk a little bit of wine, so they were like really joyful.
Изглежда са били пинали малко вино и се радвали.
No heavy drugs.
Не тежки наркотици.
Just some little drinking,
Малко си пинали.
And they were, embracing and kissing a little bit. That was all.
Единственото, което правили, просто че се прегръщали.
That's ridiculous. Everybody does it anytime, anywhere. It doesn't agitate anybody.
Това е смешно да си мислим, че това ще събуди желание в някой. Време всеки го прави.
It's not even soft porn.
Дори това не е леко порно.
It's nothing. I mean, you know, in TV, even in kids' hours, you can see that. There's no censor. So poor Ajamil, he was so innocent. When he saw it, he became completely agitated. Imagine we put Ajamil today, you know, in the red light district of Sofia. You know? Wow. So he lost it. And Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport that this happened, it's an isolated incident many, many years ago. And he said, nowadays, this is everywhere. So therefore, those young boys, and he refers to his disciples, we were all young at the time, you know, for them to remain brahmachari in this environment is practically impossible. When he said somebody who can do that, it's a hero. Because actually it's almost practically impossible. Now again the question arises, why do something like that so extreme in the first place? You know, just be normal. Become agitated. Be happy. So, actually all the brahmacharis should raise their hands. At least. Yes, please. Oh, let's hear it. Krishna gives the answer.
Because this type of enjoyment has a beginning and end.
That's okay, I don't mind.
And the wise do not indulge in it because it ultimately brings suffering. Well. No, you have to translate that. So let's see where it is. We will find out whether you're right. What chapter? Same chapter? Yeah. Which verse? В този глава Кришна обяснява, че мъдрите не се наслаждават на сетивно удоволствие, понеже те имат начало и край.
5:22. It was not the same. I know it was not the same chapter. 5:22, 42. What was it? 5:22. Yes, that sounds right. Yeah. Yehi sangsparshaja boga dukkayonaya evate adyantavanta kaunteya nateshu ramate buddha. An intelligent person does not take part in the sources of misery which are due to contact with the material senses. O son of Kunti, such pleasures have a beginning and an end, and so the wise man does not delight in them.
В пета глава 22 текст се казва: за разумната личност на славата, породена от материалните сетива, е източник на страдание. О сине на Кунти, тези наслаждения имат начало и край, и мъдрият не изпитва удоволствие от тях.
Well, actually, the people, they probably know, most of us, we know that.
Може би хората, повечето от нас знаем това.
Because that's the experience inevitably in the material world. And some will argue, that's all right, I accept that. And actually, unless you experience misery, how can you appreciate joy? So it's part of life. You suffer. And then when you can enjoy, you really enjoy more. If it would be always enjoyment, it becomes boring. So suffering is like, the chili in the soup. So, I mean, therefore Krishna says an intelligent person does not take part in that because, he knows there is something higher and this is not really worth it. Yes, he says it 2 times at the end. So the wise man does not delight in that. So, therefore, though, if we are not wise, if we are not intelligent, then this is it. This is the best thing you can get. Agitation of the senses. Now I was actually hoping for another answer. I mean, this is definitely correct. Yes.
Как да кажа, кратко наслаждение после цял живот работа.
He says, in short, brief enjoyment than a whole life hard work.
Oh, that's his. He speaks from experience. I agree. I also speak from experience. Although Krishna was so kind, it wasn't the whole life hard work. And many years, 25, was with the BBT, so even though it was hard work, it was directly connected with devotional service, so I was very lucky. But not everybody is so lucky. And if you have your own business, you are also very lucky. If one is employed and dependent on a demoniac boss, then it really becomes difficult. So, that's true, but that wasn't the answer I was hoping for. Anybody? Yes, please. 266. Let's go. Let's see. Good, everybody knows Bhagavad Gita, fantastic.
Where Krishna says that when the mind and senses are agitated, one cannot be happy.
Oh!
Peaceful.
Yes, the translation is one who is not connected with the Supreme in Krishna consciousness can have neither transcendental intelligence nor a steady mind, without which there is no possibility of peace, and how can there be any happiness without peace?
Този, който не е свързан с върховния в Кришна съзнание, няма нито трансцендентална интелигентност, нито устойчив ум, без които е невъзможно да се намери спокойствие. Как може да има щастие без спокойствие?
So let me rephrase my question. I wanted to concentrate especially on the sexual attraction.
Имах предвид точно въпроса относно сексуалното наслаждение.
What does that produce?
Какво създава това?
That's not. Stretch it out.
It produces children.
Maybe. Not necessarily. That's another aspect of Kali Yuga. That's the right way. Because that means tapasya. And that's a way of curing. You go through that. Yeah, tapasya means something not very pleasant. Discomfortable. Even suffering sometimes. So, therefore, many people try to avoid that. And we can say, just to give a brief hint, sex where children are produced means sex with sacrifice. So it becomes a sacrifice, it becomes purified.
Когато резултатът на секса с децата, тогава това се счита за жертвоприношение, защото ще са необходими усилия, тогава те усилия се причистват.
So sex without the idea of children means you're disconnected from sacrifice, and then you're in trouble.
И когато сексът не води до такова следствие, то ще се откъсва от жертвоприношението и тогава ще имат проблем.
So what does Rishabdev tell us?
Какво ни казва Ришабдев?
Giving you the clue of the what I was hoping the answer.
И това е всъщност отговора, който търсим аз.
Pumsa striya mituni bhavam etam. Eta mito hridaya granthim asit. So this is the basic principle of material life, this attraction.
Той казва, че основният принцип на материалния живот е това привличане.
Yes, and it's everywhere. It's not only in the human society.
Не е само в човешкото общество, навсякъде.
When Prabhupada speaks about, he says, ants and birds and flies. You see flies flying around sometimes.
Прабхупад казва, това го виждаме на всички живи същества, форми на живот, дори и мухите.
And in the springtime, the birds.
И птиците на поле.
It's amazing,
Удивително.
Especially pigeons.
Особено гълби.
There comes the pigeon guy.
Идва гълба.
And he goes like. He shows himself.
Оказва се.
And then she goes away.
Тя се върва.
And he goes behind.
И той следва.
Then she flies off.
Тя повлита някъде.
He flies behind.
Той следва.
She sits somewhere.
Тя следва.
And he's coming.
Той пак идва. Пак се надува.
And he gets closer, she flies away.
И когато се приближи, пак излита тя.
And it can go on and on.
И това може да продължава.
He's really insisting, and she said,
той е настоял, тя не.
Not interested. So, anyway, the point is, this will ensure our existence in the material world.
Така ли иначе, това е причината да останем със сигурност в материалния свят.
As long as that attraction is strong, then one is practically obliged, forced to accept another material body.
Докато това желание го има, човек на практика е задължен да приема друго материално тяло.
And continue in the cycle of birth and death.
И да продължава цикъл на раждане и смърт.
So that is not good.
И това не е добре.
I mean, Krishna is definitely right, it has a beginning and an end and is suffering. But as I said, people say, well, okay, I accept that.
Ако кажем само, че той има начало и край, хората могат да кажат, аз приемам това.
But really, a little bit intelligent, one should understand birth and death is really not, the cycle is not desirable.
Но поне ако има някаква интелигентност, хората трябва да разберат, че раждането и смъртта не са приятни.
But again, somebody who has no knowledge and doesn't even think that this is true, he will not care.
Но разбира се, ако някой няма знание и не приема това за истина, няма да го отрежи.
Or sometimes somebody will say, what's wrong with that? Become reborn, so what's the problem?
Или да каже, какъв е проблем да се ражда?
Then if you tell him you may become a dog,
и ако му кажеш, какъв е проблем да станеш куче?
I don't mind.
Нямаш ли проблем?
Prabhupada had the direct experience in Hawaii.
В Хавай, Прабхупад има такъв опит.
He preached to some students. That time he gave a class in front of university students.
Той дал лекция в университет.
And he mentioned that you may become a dog. And one of the students, raised his hand and said, "So what's wrong with that? I don't mind to become a dog." So if that is our situation, that we don't mind to become a dog, then what can you do? Of course, he may think of these tiny little cutie dogs that have, some thing in their hair, and they have a rich lady carrying them around all day long.
Разбира се, той може да си представи кутишкия живот, като едно пуделче с пандето, което го носи и някаква богата дама.
I mean, yeah, you may think, well, that's a good life actually.
Може да си мисля, това е добър живот.
Then she will share a cookie with me.
Тя ще си споделя бисквита с мен.
You have seen that, you know. She puts a cookie in her mouth, goes to the dog like this.
Тя си сваля бисквитката и подава с уста на кученцата.
Yeah. Then the dog comes, you know, and they kiss, you know.
И кучка захапва и те се целува.
And of course he can sleep with her in her bed.
Той спи с нея на леглото.
And he gets, you know, nicely dressed and goes to the hairdresser once in a while. I mean, it's a beautiful, good life.
Добър живот.
Life is good, you know.
Тук е обичат да ходят на фризьор.
So, but how many? There's only 1 in a million who has that situation.
Но може би 1 на милион има такава ситуация.
Life is good. So, you know, then you go to Calcutta and you see dogs on the street with 1 ear and no hair and limping, you know, and skinny like a skeleton. So that's another possibility when you become a dog.
В колкото може да видите друга възможност за раждане като куче, без ухо, с тънки като скелет, без козина.
So the point is, even if, in the material world, you don't know if we have to change bodies, what kind of body you will get.
В материалния свят ние не знаем, ако трябва да сменим тялото си, какво ще бъде.
But even if you get even a better body than the one you have now,
дори да получим по-добро тяло, това, което имаме сега.
Krishna will speak about that. He will say, no. Even if you go to the highest planet, don't go.
Кришна говори за това. Той каза, дори отидеш на най-висшата планета, не отивай.
The birth and death will take place anywhere in the material world.
Навсякъде в материалния свят има раждане и смърт.
So that basically, all the teachings go to that end. Don't get another material body.
Затова и всички учения водят от този извод. Не приемате ново тяло.
Antakale chamam eva smaran mukta kalevaram. At the end of this body, you think of me and come to me. Don't take another one.
Накрая на този живот мисли за мен и затова не приема ново тяло.
So this situation where there's a lot of attraction and agitation like this for the sense enjoyment, then it's guaranteed you will get a body.
Това е ситуациите, в които имаме силно привличане за силно наслаждение, със сигурност ще получим материално тяло.
Absolutely impossible to avoid.
Няма как да го избегнем.
So an intelligent person will say, that's not good. So what do I have to do to avoid it?
Затова интелигентният човек ще си каже, да, това не е добре, какво мога да направя, за да го избегна?
Then we have the injunction, you have to become dhira. Yes, undisturbed by agitation. So, and that's of course not so easy, but it's possible, as we see here in this verse from Yamuna Acharya. Well, basically that's the only real solution. As Prabhupada said, and he gave the example of somebody who eats, right? And who was hungry when he began to eat, and then his hunger goes away. And that refers to the verse Bhakti Pareshanu Bhava Virakti Anyatra, that devotional service will produce 3 results. Tushti, Pushti, Kshut, Apaya. Nourishment, satisfaction, pleasure, and hunger goes away. That's the example. Somebody who eats, he will get strength, gets nourished. There will be enjoyment while he eats. And the hunger he was feeling will disappear.
глада, който усещаш, ще изчезне.
Now that hunger is compared to the desire for enjoyment.
Този глад е сравнен с желанието за наслаждение.
And sometimes we hear that, I am hungry for you.
Дори чуваме някой да каже, изварен съм за теб.
Very open, honest statement.
Това е директно твърдение.
And sometimes they say that I could eat you.
Някой път даже каже, ще те спускам.
I mean, you're laughing. We do this even with this baby, small children. Sometimes people say that I could eat you.
Да, ние с малки деца казваме.
Isn't it? They don't say that in Bulgaria. We say that in Germany. We're more, how do you say, rakshashi. But it's a common phenomena. If you like something or somebody, really, it means, I could eat you.
Срещаме често, че да кажем, ако наистина сме привлечени, може да кажем, ще те изям.
And of course, we do that a little bit.
Разбира се, в някаква степен го прави.
We don't want to go into the details, but but that's the situation. There's hunger, or sometimes also, how you say, thirst. Asatrishna. One is thirsty for, material objects.
Това също се нарича асатришна, жарен за материални обекти.
It's very easy to understand these analogies.
Лесно да разберем тези примери.
So therefore, in that verse it says, if one becomes Krishna conscious, this type of hunger goes away.
Затова е пример, който е даден тук, че ако някой стане осъзнан за Кришна, този глад изчезва.
Which means it's not that you are hungry and then you look at the food and you say, oppression, no.
Това не означава, че вие просто избягвате храната, но всъщност много я желаете.
I mean, after a feast, right? Sunday feast, you imagine, you had halava, puris in ghee, strawberry ice cream, pulao rice, and give us some more nice preparations. And you ate 3 big plates.
Ако след голямо пътешество сте взели 3 чини с най-различни вкусни храни, сладки, халва, богати рис, така нататък.
I mean, you practically can't move.
На практика няма да може да мърдате.
Now then somebody comes with your favorite of it, the strawberry ice cream with whipped cream on top. You look at it.
Някой идва и поднася любимия сладолед с ягоди или ще му кажете благодаря към него.
Because the hunger, there's there's no attraction in that.
Няма привличане, просто нямате желание.
So it's possible that happens with what is described here.
Възможно е това се случи следване, което е предписано тук.
And that's of course possible as Yamuna Acharya described, Nava Rasa. When there's an experience of some taste that actually is better than the other one.
Когато има преживяване на вкус по-висш от другия.
Yeah, the famous higher taste.
Известният по-висш вкус.
Right? We do our cookbooks sometimes. It's called a higher taste. And that's true also. If we are accustomed, let's say, to junk food and you get something like puris in ghee and things really perfectly cooked, that's a higher, then easily this other, a burger or something.
Ако сте свикнали да дадем храна на качествена, ако ни поднесат нещо много добро, като примерно добре изготвено в ги, ще изоставим лесно бургери.
Yeah, if you have nothing to eat, I mean a burger looks like a feast.
Ако нямате нищо какво да ядете, бургера ще изглежда като
But if you get a really nice nice preparations, then something second, third or fourth class is not interesting.
Но ако имате наистина много хубава храна, всички второстепенни третокласни храни,
that's the only real possibility to overcome the attraction that's generally unavoidable in the material world.
Така че това е единствената алтернатива да бъде преодоляно това привличане, което е невъзможно да се избегне в материалния свят.
Because as we have here the example of Vishwamitra, he was a yogi who tried to control all these things just by yoga practice.
Както виждаме, пример с Вишвамитра, само с йога практика той бил способен да владее.
And that's Ashtanga yoga is a mechanical process.
Ashtanga yoga е механичен процес.
It's not really a process of changing consciousness.
Чрез него не се променя самото съзнание.
It's asana, it's pranayama. There's a lot of, you do mechanical things to just pacify the mind.
С механични средства човек умиротворява ума.
And it's not that it has no result.
И резултат има.
So he was in meditation. I mean, he was okay.
Той бил в медитация.
As long as there was nothing interesting nearby.
До тогава, докато не се появява нещо интересно наблизо.
So he had his eyes closed. He didn't see Menaka.
Очите му били затворени, той не видял Менака.
I mean, just imagine, Nowadays, even if you see, and because people have seen, as I said, 100,000 times, it agitates me. So I'm looking for something new, just to get a little more agitation.
Да се представим, в днешно време, разбира се, това не ми прави впечатление, защото сме виждали 100,000 пъти и ни привлича, затова търсим нещо ново.
But in his case, he didn't see that beautiful apsara.
В неговия случай той не видял тази красива апсара.
He only heard the tinkling of her ankle bells.
Само чул звука на звънчетите.
I mean, will you be agitated by hearing some tinkling of an ankle bell?
Вие ще се възбудите ли, ако чуете само някакво звънение?
Difficult to imagine.
Трудно да се представя.
But it happened to him. He was in meditation. And then he heard that sound.
Той медитирал, чул този звук.
So you imagine. And then you hear the ting, 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 ting. And he goes, you slightly open one eye, and then you see the ankle. Not just hear the ankle, you see the ankle. Oh my God.
И така, след медитация, чувате звука, леко отваряте едното око и виждате гледане.
Not just any ankle, it's Menaka's ankle. Apsara ankle. So, then he started to, and that was it?
И така, не кой да е ankle, гледане на апсарата. И така, той погледал нагоре и край.
That's how things go. We know that, a little bit ting, 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 then you see a little ankle, and then you go up, and then you see, and oh my God. And then it's too late. And then you become the father of Shakuntala. Yes, he had a child. Another one is Saubari Muni. That's even a more extreme example. He probably had heard about Vishwamitra. He said, this is very dangerous. This Indra, he may send an apsara and then, you're finished. I'll be more clever. I will meditate under the water. So he went, yogis can do that. He goes in the water and he starts to meditate there. And then two fish swim. We talked about the pigeons. Two fish. And they do their thing. And then at one point, they go like, ding, and they kiss. Now, Saubhari Muni sees that and he goes, wow. And he went out of the water and married 50 princesses. Anyway, so that, yes, the whole instruction is one has to be very careful, otherwise we stay in this material world.
Цялото пулката от всичко това е, че трябва да сме много внимателни, иначе ще остане това материалство.
So therefore Vedic civilization, it is another subject, the dealing, how to regulate and control this whole affair, the attraction between men and women. And
ведическата цивилизация се набляга на това как по различни начини да бъдат регулирани взаимоотношенията между половете.
Yeah, because ultimately virakti, or becoming detached, that's the idea for everybody, not just for some yogis.
Защото идеята за виракти или достигането на непривързаност е валидна за всеки, не само за йоги.
Yes, even for those who have married and do have a wife at home and a family.
За тези, които са семейни.
And that's the only way you can do it legally.
Това е единственият начин, по който нещата да се правят по законен начин.
Connected with the spirit of sacrifice. You have to go through some suffering.
Свързано с духът на жертването.
And don't just walk out. Which also happens. Man, becomes father, and then he sees how much trouble that is and just walks away. So therefore we have so many single parents nowadays. No, there's a responsibility. You are obliged to take care of the family until they're all grown up.
Затова имаме отговорност като родители да останем заедно с децата, като израснат.
And then you have to start to practice with the wife detachment.
И след това мъжът трябва заедно с съпругата си да практикува непривързаност.
After enjoying for 25-30 years, now it's time to gradually let it go.
След като съм се наслаждавал за 25 години, нека сега изоставя нещата постепенно.
Originally that is called vanaprastha.
Това било наричано ванапраста.
It means you go to the forest.
Отива в гората.
You don't cook anymore.
Не готвиш повече.
Uncooked food every day.
Всеки ден не готвена храна.
Roots and fruits and leaves.
Ядеш само корени, плодове и листа.
You don't go to the boutique to buy clothing. No, you just take the bark of the tree. You don't cut your fingernails and go to the hairdresser. You just let it all just grow. So that means the necessities of life are like go down to practically zero. And then when it's practiced, then everybody goes their way. Now we can't do that. I don't think so. Who will go to the forest and just, that's not the idea. So then we go on pilgrimage, visit the holy places, different temples. There's no more home to go back to practically. You don't continue with your business. Yeah. So it means simplifying your lifestyle and becoming more and more detached. Because it's definitely the second half of life. It may be the last third of your life. So you know already how many more years do I maybe have? 20, 15, 25, but it's already definitely countdown, the final countdown.
И това е вече последното отборяване. Сигурно може да пресметите колко да остава. 20-15.
And then you prepare.
И тогава се подготвят.
It's not like, as I said, today it's just the opposite.
Днешно време, както казах, е обратно.
You become old and it becomes more and more difficult to enjoy. What do? You take Viagra.
И ако вие ставате по-неспособни да се наслаждавате поради старост, какво правите? И вземете си Viagra.
And then you go to the clubs, you have money and you can buy the girls.
И отивате по различни клубове и с пари купувате музичите.
And you go on as long as possible.
И продължавате доколкото може.
Right? Until you practice. I mean, there was one guy, I don't think it's just a joke, it's a story. Somebody told me, it's actually put an advertisement in the paper.
Чух една история, не мисля, че е измислена. Той сложил една реклама в вестник.
He would leave his inheritance, he was rich,
Той бил богат и казал, че ще остави наследство
to the woman in whose arms he would die.
на жената, в чието обятия ще умре.
So that means every night he would have sex.
Това означава, че всяка нощ е
It's like roulette, you know. They will all line up, old men, all the young girls.
Той бил възрастен човек и имал млади момичета във всяка вечер.
Maybe I'm the lucky one, he will die in my arms.
И тя се надявала, ами може би аз ще съм късметликите, защото той ще умре в моите
And then I will get on the money.
и ще получи всички пари.
So, that's not the goal of life.
Но това не е целта на живота.
To leave your body in the arms of a beautiful young lady.
Да умреш в ръцете на красиво момиче.
Then you are guaranteed, basically, to get another body, and it will be a girl's body.
Тогава със сигурност ще получиш друго тяло, най-вероятно на момиче.
Or maybe a dog's body. Whatever it may be, but it's a body in the material world, and it means birth and death.
Означава тяло в материалния свят, означава раждане и смърт.
And that's undesirable.
Това не е желано.
So, are you feeling depressed?
Как се чувствате? Депресирани?
Or enlivened?
Или просветлени?
Yeah, it's a difficult subject. Because nowadays it's like, if you talk about this, people think you're really mad.
В днешно време, ако говорите на тази тема, хората си мислят, че сте лудени.
Something. Any questions?
Някакви въпроси?
No, better not ask. Okay.
Задължително ли е за всички да приемаме вана праска?
Is it compulsory for all to take vanaprastha? Is it compulsory for all?
Nothing is compulsory. If you're, we have to see what do we want in life.
Трябва да решим какво желаем в живота.
It's the Vedic civilization it's very scientific.
Ведическата цивилизация е научна.
These 4 stages of life, they're meant for, good question. It's meant for those with Brahminical inclination or qualities.
4 етапа в живота са предназначени, особено за тези, които имат брамински склонности.
So, for Shudras, it's definitely not compulsory.
И за шудрите това със сигурност не е задължително.
They only have grihastha life from beginning to end, that's all.
От началото до края за тях има само семейен живот.
They don't even have brahmacharya.
Те дори нямат живот в ученичество брахмачария.
Shudras means really unintelligent persons who, anyway, so yes, they just have a marriage and that's all. But because they take a marriage, so then also they will be elevated.
Шудрите нямат достатъчно интелигентно, за тях има само шрамът на грехаста, на семейния живот, но понеже те приемат това, ще напреднат.
Then the Dvijas, which are Vaishyas, Kshatriyas, and Shudras, and Brahmanas, so they will go, even the Vaishyas and Kshatriyas, I think Vanaprastha is part of that. Not necessarily sannyas.
задвижихте тези, които са това поведение, т.е. вайши, викшапи и брамани, особено, те се предполагат да приемат това на праста, но не необходимо саньяс.
Yes, sannyas is reserved for brahmanas.
Саньяс е главно за браманите.
But like the Pandavas, when they went to the Himalayas, that was vanaprastha.
Пример е с пандавите, когато те отидат в Хималайите, това е било ванапраста.
When Dhritarashtra quits home, that's vanaprastha. Prithu and his wife went to the forest, vanaprastha. There's a lot of examples we have. Many kings. So, yeah, it's compulsory. I mean, if we understand the purpose of life and the whole practice of Krishna consciousness, it's part of it.
Ако разберем целта на живота и практиката на Кришна съзнание, да, това е част от него.
Well, it basically means you reduce the necessities of life.
Но на практика това означава, че просто намаляте нуждите в живота си.
As I said, it doesn't mean for us we really would go to the forest and, have fingernails like 20 centimeters and matted hair and bark as clothes and just eat some leaf. You can do that.
Това не означава да сме богати, да се спуснем малко 20 сантиметра и да видим стаи. Няма как да го правим.
Avaduta style. No. In society and as a preaching movement, we would just go on pilgrimage. You don't have a luxury home anymore.
Това означава просто пътуване, поклонение, нямаме вече богат дом.
It depends on the situation. You maybe, have a temple with your wife and invite people to come.
Това зависи от конкретно индивидуалната ситуация. Може да имате дом, който да ви като храм, който да каните хора.
It's more a state of mind. You may have a place still and have it as a temple. But it's not like home life,
В крайна сметка това е по-скоро въпрос на съзнание. Може да имате свое място, но не е като вашия дом, разчитате за храм, където хора.
That's not very good. Just, remain sitting on the porch, watching the sunset with a glass of lassi in your hand. That's, we had a good life, didn't we?
Не, просто да се издържава на кошерка, която разгърнете с чаша маси.
Maybe you have some grandchildren playing in front of you.
Може би някакви внуци или си играят пред нас.
And you throw the ball once in a while.
Ти от време на време хвърляш топка.
So, no. No, tapasya. One of the aspects of vanaprastha life means tapasya.
Един от аспектите на ванапрастха е тапасия.
Voluntarily reduce all the comforts and enjoyments to the necessities and not more than that.
Доброволно да се намалят всички наслаждения до минимум необходимо.
And then, if you're really inclined, then one day take sannyas.
И ако си имаш тази склонност, си ден може да кажеш довиждане да приемеш саньяс.
Not necessarily compulsory, but it's not bad.
Не е задължително, не е лошо.
If one can do it,
ако може да го направи човек.
Recommended.
Препоръчено.
Then you really are free from all. You don't even have to worry about take your wife to the dentist.
Тогава си свободен изцяло. Дори не е много да се безпокоиш да заведеш съпругата си до зъболекар.
I mean, she will be taken care of. That you have to take, also. Ensure.
Трябва да се погрижиш, да подсигуриш някой да се грижи за нея.
But one becomes free from all social responsibilities.
На практика означава освобождаване от всички социални отговорности.
Which is meant to be so one can concentrate fully on spiritual life.
Което позволява човек изцяло да се съсредоточи върху духовен живот.
What else? Anything else? Yes, please.
Например, когато искаме посвещение, ние даваме 4 обещания. За неотделните слова, посетанти и обещаваме да не правим извънбрачен по отношение на Ние не казваме, че ще зачаваме само децата съвместно. А казваме, че няма да имаме извън брачни полове, извън отношения. Не казваме, че няма да имаме вътрешни полове такива. И нали? И другото, което е, че когато твой партньор идва при тебе и иска близост с тебе, трябва ли да му кажеш, извинявай, ама ходи при съседа, че съм много отречен. Това не е толкова отречен.
Sounds interesting. Will you remember everything? Give me the essence.
So Buddha said, we promise, when we take initiation, we give a promise to follow 4 principles, and one is no illicit sex, which means not sex outside of marriage, or not necessarily means for procreation of children. If second part, your partner approaches you for intimacy, your partner approaches you, and then you say, well, I'm too detached, maybe you go to the neighbor.
How much time do we have? This is a big subject matter. Well. If you have read Prabhupada's books, then we should know that, yes, it really means for begetting children. Now he also says sometimes that in a civilized society it means you get married and you're satisfied with one wife or one husband and you just don't jump around like a monkey.
И също така, Прабхупад казва, че в цивилизовано общество означава човека да бъде правен само с един съпруг или съпруга и не търси като нормално наслаждение до него.
Now I will dare to give my interpretation. And taking into account the reality of life in Kali Yuga, present day society. So this, I would say, is, there are different levels of illicit sex. Yes. For the Brahmana, somebody who, is a Brahmana, supposed to be a Brahmana, acts, lives like a Brahmana, has a sacred thread and everything. The meaning of illicit sex is that. Only for procreation and nothing else. If you can't do that, then if it's for, now I'm going to say, that's my conviction. If you know you can't do it in long term, take off your Brahmin thread and keep it safe until you can. Be honest.
Сега ще кажа, това е моето виждане. Ако знаете, че в дългосрочен план не може да следвате това и имате право на шнур, по-добре си го свалете и си го държете до когато времето обаче ще може.
So, I would say if one, is in the Shudra quality, if you can just maintain a marriage and be faithful and don't jump around like a monkey, very good.
Аз би казал, ако имате по-скоро качество на шудра и може да поддържате брака си с вярност към партньора, без да се качите като маймуна, това е много добър стандарт.
Nevertheless, if one understands the philosophy, one should have the desire to give it up.
И все пак, ако разбираме добра философията, ще трябва поне да имаме желание да изоставим.
Because the reality of life is, and we have some cases, in the first 1 or 2 or 3 years of your marriage, you have all the children you want.
Защото в случай може да бъде в първите няколко години да имате децата, които искате да имате.
That means after that, that's it. Finish.
След това край.
Wow, that's difficult, isn't it?
Това е трудно.
Yes. But if you're a Brahmana, that's what it means.
Да, но ако сте брамана, това означава.
And if not, you're not really a Brahmana.
Ако не сте, не сте брамана.
You may become a Brahmana later on.
Може по-късно да станете брамани.
If you keep the desire alive.
Ако държите това желание живо.
So that's all my personal, interpretation. Because otherwise, what's the meaning? If we can't do it, and you can't do it for 20 years, so what does it mean? You're living, you're supposedly a Brahmana, but every now and then you have sex, and that's definitely not for children. So what does it mean? It's hypocrisy.
Защото какво означава да се представите за брамана, но в същото време имате сексуални отношения не за създаване на деца, тогава това се счита за лицемерие.
Now in the Srimad Bhagavatam, now we will have a very nice verse, don't become depressed, which will give us some life.
Шримад Бхагаватам е един хубав стих, който ще ни стържи.
And it's Krishna speaking, so it's definitely bona fide.
И Кришна го казва, така че сигурно се авторитетен.
So we go to the 11th canto, chapter 20, and verses 27, 28, 29, and probably we can include 30. Let's see. So, Jata Shrado Matkatasu Nirvinna Sarva Karmasu Veda Dukatmakam Kaman Paridyage Pyanishvaraha Tato Bhajeta Mam Prita Shradalur Drida Nishchayaha Yushyamanashchatan Kaman Dukodarkangscha Garhayam. So Krishna speaks to Uddhava. And he says, a person, a devotee, having awakened faith in the narrations of my glories, being disgusted with all material activities, knowing that all sense gratification leads to misery, but still unable to renounce all sense enjoyment, my devotee should remain happy and worship me with great faith and conviction. Now comes the important part. Even though he sometimes engages in sense enjoyment, my devotee knows that all sense gratification leads to a miserable result. And he sincerely repents such activities. So that means you don't make a new philosophy. We're in Kali Yuga, we're all fallen, it doesn't really matter. It means just outside of marriage. Don't be a fanatic. No, it means what it means. So you can't do it. Okay. You remain happy. Don't become depressed. Continue with your devotional service. But you know and you hope that one day I'll come to that level. And therefore in the next verse, Krishna says, when an intelligent person engages constantly in worshipping me through loving devotional service, as described by me, his heart becomes firmly situated in me. Thus all material desires within the heart are destroyed. So, in time, you'll come to that level. In other words, one shouldn't become resentful to this injunction, to this instruction. Yeah, and reject it. Then you close the door.
Тогава затваряте вратата.
You would want to. Maybe you are not able to. That's okay. But you want to.
Може да не сте способен, това няма проблем, но поне имате желание.
And if you really want, and you go through marriage, and you get a few children, and you suffer all the consequences,
ако наистина преминеш през семейния си живот, имаш деца, носиш цялата отговорност и изтърпиш всички трудности.
and the body gets a little older,
И тялото остане,
and you continue hearing with faith,
и ти продължаваш с вяра да слушаш,
that at one point you'll be able to give it up.
в един момент ще можеш да го изоставиш.
Hopefully.
Надявам.
So there's no way around it.
Няма начин за обикновение.
Because as long as we are attached like that, then we have to take birth again.
Защото докато поддържаме това привързано, ще трябва да се родим това.
That we should know.
Това трябва да знаем.
Now, if we say, I don't care, I know I will have to be born again, then that's not good.
Ако кажем, знам, но не е грижа, това не е добре.
We shouldn't think like that.
Не трябва да си мислим така.
I say that because I know devotees, very long term, now 30, almost 40 years, I know somebody who's 40 years a devotee.
Аз го казвам, защото знам от опит. Познавам предан, който е вече почти 40 години.
And he has basically thrown the towel.
И той на практика хвърля кръв.
Which means, I know I can't do it, so I will have to take birth again.
Той се примирил, знам, не мога да го направя и знам, че се роди пак.
So you have resigned yourself to, that you're not able to follow the process
Ти се
properly.
предал и си решил, че не може да следваш процес.
It doesn't mean he's not a devotee. He's a devotee, a very good devotee.
Не означава, че не си правил, но всъщност се прави, то много добре.
If we, lose the desire to come to that level, then it's very difficult to make advancement.
Но ако изгубим желанието да достигнем това ниво, тогава е трудно да правим прогрес.
So anyway, I think this verse from the 11th canto is a very nice verse because Krishna knows, and especially nowadays, it's very, very difficult.
Мисля, че това текст от 11 песен е много уместен, защото Кришна знае как се нещата. Особено в днешно време това е много трудно.
But we should not reject the principle.
Но не трябва да отхвърляме принципа.
Even if you can't follow it, don't reject the principle.
Дори ако не може да доследваме, не трябва да отхвърляме.
Or justify by false philosophy. I mean, there is false philosophy.
Или да го оправдаваме с някаква погрешна философия.
Without mentioning names, very, very old, senior, whatever devotee, and he fell into the trap of false philosophy, tantric type of philosophy.
Има, съжаление, такива примери с предани, които променят философията.
Which basically means, this man and woman is a creation of God.
Когато там мъже и жената са творени на Бога.
So basically he wants us to enjoy.
И то го направи това, за да се наслаждаваме. Той иска да го прави.
And you see in your partner the goddess.
И в своя партньор вие виждате богиня.
And anyway, it's a whole philosophy, when you unite, there will be something will happen and you will experience, it's all boats.
И вие се свързвате и чрез тази връзка ще изпитате нещо възвишено, това всичко е измислено.
You're justifying that it's okay, It's actually spiritual. Actually, it's spiritual.
Опитвате се да оправдаете нещо, което вие наричате духовно.
That's what Tantra is all about.
Това всъщност е Тантра.
You can enjoy and anyway, I'm not going to get into all the details.
Може да се наслаждавате и да си мислите.
I mean, it's incredible, how somebody who knows the philosophy, has read Prabhupada's books, comes to that.
Невероятно е как някой, който знае философията, че отговорите на Прабхупад може да стигне на това.
Where in the world Prabhupada talks about it like that? Never, ever. It's Tantra.
Някога Прабхупад да е говорил по този начин. Това е Тантра.
Yes, Tantra. You see the girl or the woman as Parvati, and she sees you as Shiva. It's all that stuff, it's behind it. It's all actually anyway. So don't know. We shouldn't go that way, that road.
Не трябва да тръгнеш този път.
Justifying illicit sex by some bogus philosophy.
да се опитаме да оправдаем незаконния секс, да измислените условия.
It's a very difficult subject, I know that. And I tried my best, so take it or leave it. But that's the reality. I mean, unless we become detached from material body and material consciousness, we have to take birth again. That's for sure.
Но със сигурност ако не станем непривързани към материалното тяло и материалното желание, ще трябва да се родим.
So that's not good, is it?
Не е добре, нали?
I mean, that much I think we should be convinced, no? To continue in the cycle of birth and death is not good. So how to get out of it?
Продължаваме да сме кръговата на раждане и смъртта не е добре. Затова как да се измъкнем?
So I think should we stop? Oh my God.
I lost a little bit there, or I missed the logical sequence of the class.
Oh, so what shall I do?
I want to ask in that connection.
Yes.
Материалното интимно наслаждение и духовното интимно наслаждение са в основата скрита база на причение, което всъщност тук не се среща в материалния свят и това е нещо, което се дава проблем.
Кой не се среща? So he says, what is the difference between, or is that the difference between material intimate enjoyment and spiritual intimate enjoyment in the tapasya? Because the tapasya is not, that's not, I'm translating literally, the tapasya is not seen here in that relationship in the material world.
Well, the tapasya is to raise children. The connection between sex and naked dharma, because that's what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, right? He says, I am that if it's not against dharma. So you can look it up. I have so many quotes, Prabhupada. This is the purpose. I mean, dharmic, let's call it dharmic sex. Sex with sacrifice means the result is, or the purpose is to beget children.
Ако го наречем дхармически секс или сексът като жертвоприношение, целта трябва да му е деца.
And actually it goes one step further.
Всъщност отива една стъпка по-нататък.
And that's also directly Prabhupada's words, and if you think about it, it makes sense.
И това са също думи на Прабхупада, ако се замислим, има здрав разум.
It's meant to produce good children that will become devotees, not just cats and dogs.
Не просто деца, добри деца, които ще станат преданни.
I mean, yes. So that means that there's a whole process of preparation. I mean, we are so far removed from this kind of thinking, we can't even imagine it theoretically.
Това означава, че има процес на подготовка, но сега сме толкова отдалечени от всичко това, че дори теоретично не може да си го представим.
I mean, we are born and raised and surrounded by a society that is completely ignorant.
Ние сме родени и сме отгледани и сме заобиколени от общество в пълно невежество.
And the worst thing is we think it's the most advanced society in history. We don't know. It's the most tamasic, really low-class society in history.
можем да знаем как това е едно от най-тъмастичните и нишни класа общества в историята.
If you don't know what the purpose is, then of course how can you understand that even?
Но ако не знаем каква е крайната цел, как изобщо може да разберем това?
I mean, human life is meant to finish this problem of birth and death. That's what it is.
Това означава, човешкият живот е предназначен да се реши проблема с раждането и смъртта.
So, the basic principle of attraction is sex. So how do you deal with that? The only way is, as Krishna explains.
И понеже в основата на това привличане стои секса, как може да се справим с това, как Кришна обяснява.
If you can't just avoid it, then you have to live with it. How are you going to live with it?
Ако не може човек да го избегне, трябва да живее с него. Как да го живее с него?
So, it's connected to sacrifice.
Свързано се с жертвоприношение.
And that begins before with the Garbhadana Sanskara.
И това започва още предварително с Гарбадана Санскара.
I mean, where you declare to everybody that we are going to have sex and we want to produce a child. It's a whole process.
Цял процес вие предварително всички
It's not even secretive.
Вие се подготвяте, това не е дори тайна.
You can't even conceive how is it possible?
Може да си го представя, как е възможно.
So then that's the connection. That's the tapasya. The tapasya is, then you get a child. And then, well, you have it for many, many years, have to take care of that living entity.
Но това е жертвата, това е тапасия. Имате деца и трябва да ги гледате много години.
And it generally means you have to work hard.
И това означава да работите усилено.
Especially if it's not just one. It's two, three, 4, 5, 6 maybe. Maybe a dozen as was custom.
Или както било преди това взема.
Imagine, take care of 12 children. That's sacrifice. So, and you train them all to become devotees. That's the best way. And then you become naturally after some time detached. But then the whole lifestyle is also different. The living quarters, you don't even live together on a very close space. I mean, it's a whole scientific arrangement. And I'm going to be very blunt. You don't sleep in the double bed. I never did. I still had 4 children. What to speak if we would have been in the double bed, I probably would have a dozen. I said I would be blunt. So, anyway, I mean, when I said scientific arrangement, you do things in such a way that this agitation is minimized. It's not maximized.
Като казах, научна подредба означава, че всичко е направено така, че това привличане да се минимизира, не да се увеличава.
But what we hear from everywhere, from the media, and whoever you talk to, the idea, more, maximize it, the better, the more the better.
Всичко, което чуваме от медиите, от навсякъде около нас е обратното.
That's the philosophy. Our philosophy is just the opposite. The less, the better. Does that make sense? No. I mean, anyway, so that's the difficulty. We are not. It's very hard to understand. I shouldn't be so hard to understand. So it's very. I mean, when we are attached, it's difficult to understand.
Когато сме привързани, е трудно да се разбере.
So therefore, yes, one should, even the association should be, anyway, don't make it more than necessary.
Затова се препоръчва, дори общуването трябва да бъде минимизирано, не трябва да е повече от необходимо.
What can you say? Especially difficult when one is young. So, my speculation, you got a license there. or a few years.
Спекулация, че за някакви години имате зелена светлина.
But when you get older,
когато устарявате,
don't,
не го увеличавайте.
So, yes, from 25 to 30. Okay, it's 35. Well, 40, midlife.
35 максимум.
When the midlife crisis hits, one should start to think.
Когато удари кризата,
maximum 50. Pancho Vardam Vanang Rajet, then you have to take Nanapastani. I start thinking about it. But definitely don't get married at 65 or 70 and have babies.
Но със сигурност не се женете на 70, 65-70 и да имате деца.
Yeah, we also have those cases.
Да, има такива примери.
Yeah, brahmachari from 25 to 50 and then I get married.
Brahmachari от 25 до 50 и тогава се оженявам.
Kali Yuga is very difficult.
Kali Yuga е много трудно.
But anyway, in any circumstance, don't forget to chant Hare Krishna. That's the bottom line. Yeah, we shouldn't, take this verse seriously. We shouldn't get depressed if we can't. We are, falling, let's say. But continue and keep up the desire.
Наистина трябва да приемем този текст сериозно, който Кришна казва. Не трябва да се депресираме, ако не сме способни да следваме. Просто трябва да продължаваме да даваме време служба.
Speak from your experience and seeing others. If once you give up you actually reject the principle, then it becomes complicated, how to advance.
Това е моят опит, това, което съм виждал. Ако веднъж някой отхвърли самия принцип, става вече много трудно да се напредва.
Prabhupada speaks about that in one purport. He said one should not become resentful towards these principles.
Прабхупада говори за това в един коментар. Каза, че не трябва да се противопоставяме, да отхвърляме принцип.
I don't know whether that answered your question.
Не знам дали отговори на въпроса.
Моят въпрос беше насочен за това да разбера, понеже всичките писания говорят за отричане от материалния свят.
My question was because all scriptures they point to becoming detached from the material world.
И въпросът ми беше връзка с това да разбера дали тапасия е това нещо, което прави толкова интензивно силно усещането в духовния свят за изучение.
And my question was if tapasya makes so intense the experiences in the spiritual world.
I don't understand the question.
Не разбирам въпроса.
Rephrase it, if you can. What do we? I don't understand. Do you understand it? Can you explain it to me?
Well, he means if tapasya intensifies the experience there, but I don't understand what tapasya he means in the spiritual world.
That's what I don't understand. What do you mean?
Не разбираме какви отречения говориш в духовния свят.
Кришна казва, с тапася аз създавам този свят.
Krishna says, with tapasya, I create, maintain, anything I do.
Това е качество.
That's the quality of Krishna.
И въпросът ми е, ние трябва ли да придобиваме това качество?
How does he say that?
Това текстовете, които ни говорят за тази отреченост, за да можем ние да стигнем до према.
So do we need to develop this type of tapasya so that we can come to prema?
The process is step by step, right? We have Adao Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya, all that.
Процес е стъпка по стъпка, като се започне от вярата и така нататък до према, до любовта.
So there's one part, actually Bhajana Kriya, you would say, is when you voluntarily accept tapasya.
И от една от тези стъпки, Бхаджана Крия по-специално, е моментът, в който ние доброволно приемаме тапасия.
And that tapasya are the four regulated principles.
И тази тапасия се свежда до четирите принципи.
Yes, Bhajana Kriya, Prabhupada explains, means when one becomes serious and wants to take initiation.
Бхаджана Крия Прабхупада обяснява, когато станем сериозни и искаме да приемем посвещение.
That means one voluntarily, wants to practice spiritual life seriously.
Това означава, че пожелаваме да практикуваме сериозно духовен живот.
And then one promises that I will follow these four rules.
И това обещава, че ще следвам тези четири правила.
And all of them, every single one of them, is tapasya.
И всяко едно от тях е тапасия.
So, in that sense, unless we do that, then forget about all the later stages.
И в този смисъл, ако не ги следваме, трябва да забравим всички останали етапи.
Very simple I think, to understand. It's a scientific process.
Много просто, това е такъв научен процес.
What comes after Bhajana Kriya?
И какво е след Бхаджана Крия?
No. Anartha Nivritti. That's the result. If we can follow these principles, then there will be anartha nivritti.
Ако следваме тези принципи, ще има пречистване.
Which means all these unwanted desires and tendencies and attachments will disappear from the heart.
Всички тези нежелани привързаности и желания в сърцето, те ще изчезват.
Nashta, prayeshu, abhadreshu. Abhadreshu are anarthas. Inauspicious. Not good for spiritual life.
Това са ненужните и тези, които не са благоприятни за духовния живот.
So there will be nashta, there will be destroyed, prayeshu, almost everything, not totally.
И те ще бъдат почти напълно разрушени.
And when Prabhupada speaks about it, he says about 75%.
Прабхупада говори, споменава, че 75%.
By 75% you get to nishta.
С тези 75% стигате до нища.
So what happens to the last 25?
Какво се случва с последните 20?
They are residues. They are not really effective to hinder your progress.
Те са остатъчни и всъщност не могат да изпрат прогрес.
And then after nishta, then is ruchi, then asakti, then bhava, and then prema. So the last thing, all these others have to be there. Otherwise you don't get it.
И за да стигнете това последното, трябва да имате всички останали.
So in many cases we can understand that the problem point or the really crucial point is anartha nivritti.
Много случаи може да видим, че проблемният момент или същественият момент е този на анартha nivritti.
Because if we engage in bhajana kriya, devotional service, without following the regulated principles, there will be no anartha nivritti, or very, very, very slowly.
Защото ако извършваме служене без да следваме принципите, няма да има прогрес или ще бъде много бавен.
Well, basically, if you really don't follow, there's not much progress.
На практика, ако изобщо не следвате, почти няма напредък.
I mean, we're not talking about some years, we talk about lifetimes.
И вече няма да говорим за години, а за живот.
Or kalpas.
Или калпи.
Yes, that's Chaitanya Charita. Anyway, so the point is, the idea that you continue, as also Krishna says, you continue. The idea is, and Prabhupada said that, you chant Hare Krishna, even if you can't follow the regulatory principles. Don't stop chanting.
Но идеята е, че дори да не може да следваме принципите, трябва да продължаваме да повтаряме Харе Кришна. Трябва да спираме.
And Prabhupada said, in due course, you will be able to follow.
И Прабхупада казва, с течение на времето ще сме способни.
That is, if one has the desire. You don't give it up. You don't justify by false philosophy. Then there's no chance.
Ще можем да следваме, но ако това е при условие, че имаме желанието да достигнем там, а не си измисляме някаква фалшива философия за оправдание.
Remember what Krishna says. You fall, you are not able, but you actually repent again. But you want to. So then it's a matter of time.
Да си спомня какво Кришна казва. Ако не успеем, ако се провалим да съжаляваме, както Кришна казва, и с течение времето ще успеем.
So the tapasya, that is the tapasya. And it is tapasya.
Това е всъщност tapasya.
I mean, later if one can do it easily, then it's no longer really tapasya. It becomes natural.
Когато човек може да го направи, по-късно това вече не е тапасия, става нещо естествено.
But these are the basic. If you can follow that, then yes, anartha nivritti will take place, and then one comes to prema. It's a matter of time.
Но това са основните правила. Ако човек успее да ги следва, тогава достига до анарта ниврити и след това достигането до према е въпрос на време.
Tapodivyam putrakayena sattam shukye paramasaukhyam tvanantam Rishabdev says, this is actually tapodivyam, it's spiritual, divine tapasya.
Шабдев нарича това духовно и божествено отречение и въздържание тапасия.
Why? Because it should yet, it purifies the heart.
Защо? Защото пречиства сърцето.
And the result will be brahmasukha. It's spiritual pleasure that is unending.
И резултатът от това е брахмасука, щастие, удоволствие, което няма край, безгранично.
So, to the degree that we can follow, we will experience, that more and more.
И до степента, до която може да следваме, ще изпитваме това все повече и повече.
Therefore, at one point, it's, that we don't eat meat anymore. Is it tapasya?
И затова в началото може да ни се струва, че дори да се въздържим от ядене месо, може да ни се струва трудно тапасия.
Who thinks, I'm really suppressing my desire to have a Kentucky fried chicken?
Кой от вас се бори с това да си обуздае желанието да яде Kentucky fried chicken?
Is it a big tapasya not to eat a fried chicken?
Не е голямо отречение да се въздържим да ядем пържено пиле.
What about smoking?
Или пък пушене?
Well, it depends. But generally for somebody who, is a devotee for drinking, smoking, all these things are. Is it tapasya? Do I really, and I don't because otherwise I go to hell?
Буквално предание, който практикува от известно време, пиене, пушене, тези неща не са някаква голяма трудност отречение.
And do you have a big problem when you pass by a casino? You want to go in, but I shouldn't because it's bad?
Или пък имаме страшен проблем, когато подминаваме казино и много не се иска да влезем, но се въздържаме едва.
Well, we don't have a problem, we don't have money. But I mean, these three are not very difficult.
Тези три не са чак толкова трудни.
The fourth, that's the problem.
Четвъртия е по-голям проблем.
That's why, we have this verse today. Unexpectedly. It wasn't my plan, definitely not. I just got into this for some reason, I don't know. But it's universal, as we said. It's like millions of years ago. It will be still in a million years. It's always. It's the universal principle. But we have to deal with it. Can't avoid it. But there's hope. Some have done it, many have done it. As Krishna tells Arjuna, many before you have done it, you can also do it.
Някои много са го направили, са успели, както Кришна казва на Арджуна, много преди те са успели.
I mean, sometimes we may think it's impossible. I don't know how it will be possible. Don't worry, it will be possible.
Някой може да се струва абсолютно невъзможно как ще стане, но не се притеснявайте, е възможно.
If you really want, one good advice is take shelter of this thing.
Ако наистина искате един добър съвет е да се посвените при мърсителя.
Pray and ask him to appear in your heart and rip to pieces all these type of desires.
Да се молете му се да се появи в сърцето ви и да разкъса на парчета тези желания.
But be careful.
Но внимавайте.
He may really do that.
Той може наистина да го направи.
So then you may lament, Where have my desires gone? That's people lament if they. I mean, imagine somebody will not feel any more sexual attraction. It's a disaster.
И хората наистина ги е страх, ако изведнъж изчезне сексуалното желание, те си мислят, това е страшно.
People go to doctors and have all kinds of treatments. Because it's gone. Life is useless, And if that happens to a devotee, he says, Haribol. So anyway, it's a crazy world, huh? So, I'm sorry, but I think it's time. Everybody. So, thank you all for your attentiveness. And I hope I didn't offend anybody. Put them in anxiety. In a depressive state of mind. Well, don't worry, I'm gone tomorrow. You will not have to hear anymore something like that. Okay, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Vantaraj Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Sisi Gauranitai, Sri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Okay, yeah.